New York, and my fellow Long Islander, Mr. LaLota.
Thank you, Chairman. We said we'd never forget that 22 years ago we were attacked by folks motivated by hatred and envy for our great nation, that our innocent friends and family who merely went to work that day, riding a subway, a train, maybe they drove in, perished that day. We said we'd never forget the first responders and civilians who rushed towards danger, knowing it might be fateful for them to save innocent people, did so valiantly. We said we'd never forget the troops who were deployed in 2 decades afterwards to ensure this country remains safe, and the first responders who are still on watch today in this city and beyond to ensure we remain safe. We said we would never forget. And as I look to my left and to my right, and this point has been hit a little bit on the bipartisan nature of this panel, but it's not just New York and New Jersey members. The gentleman to my right is from Alabama, 2 to my right is from Oklahoma. I hope that we personify Congress's commitment to ensuring that this city remains safe, that we fight our enemies as far abroad as we can, that we identify the issues which would put our people into danger, and that we don't forget, and that we here are committed to ensuring that we give you the resources, the tools, the policies, the rhetoric, things that we can do to ensure that you can do your jobs effectively. And I appreciate you all being here today and the work that you do every day. My dad was a cop and his dad was a cop. My brother served in the Marines and I was in the Navy. This is a team effort that you see before you, and we appreciate your dedication and support to our common constituents. Yesterday, I visited Persistent Systems on Midtown West, about 26th Street, and they produced for the military and first responders communications gear, things that, Deputy Commissioner, you talked about in your opening statement, things that share data and voice and video in near real-time and real-time capacities. And Commissioner, you hit this when you spoke as well. This was a failure 22 years ago of intelligence sharing, of communication sharing. We didn't know the things that we needed to know 22 years ago to thwart this incident, nor to respond to it in a maximum capacity. And I appreciate collectively your efforts to get better at this. Deputy Commissioner, my first question is to you, sir. You mentioned this in your opening statement, the improvements we've made in those sorts of communications, data sharing, voice sharing, video sharing. Can you explain in about a minute or so into greater detail, sir, as to the advancements that you've made and to the extent that you share, the FDNY shares with Port Authority, NYPD, or other agencies, that your equipment is interoperable with them, that your tactics, techniques, and procedures are compatible with other agencies? Can you tell me, sir, what advances we've made in the last 22 years?
We made a lot of advances in the last 22 years. We share radio frequencies. We share video. Into our emergency operations center, there's a live feed video from NYPD helicopters. I certainly would have loved to have seen that 22 years ago, but we do it now. And we've also worked with the private sector, getting live feed videos from their helicopters. We work with the Port Authority. Not long after 9/11, there was a threat against the bridges, particularly the George Washington Bridge. And I sat at a law enforcement meeting, and just imagine this meeting, a whole bunch of police and one fire guy in the back. And I raised my hand, and I said, how do you collapse a bridge? And nobody knew. And then the Port Authority invited me into a meeting next day with the engineers. And we sat down, Port Authority, NYPD, FDNY, and we found out how that would occur. And then I gave them some ideas, and then we changed procedures.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. I'm going to interrupt you real quickly because my time is running out. Would you, sir, commit to working with our offices to let us know what more the federal government can do to ensure that we continue to communicate and collaborate?
Absolutely. We need to work together, and we need to do it in a physical, but also through technology and sharing digitally.
I appreciate that commitment. Commissioner, my last few moments are for you, sir. There's no mistake why DESPO respects you so much. You're your statement fired me up and has me focused even more so on this issue. I want to give you a moment to maybe discuss a little bit more about our state's policies and how they affect your job, especially how they negatively affect your job as it pertains, sir, to recruitment and retention. You know, what have current policies in this state done for your department's recruitment and retention, sir?
Understand that law enforcement is not perfect. We've made mistakes, 100%. And after reform that changed, justice reform that came in when it came to discovery information and bail reform, and then we get the blame of why crime is continuing. Well, the crime is continues because we don't keep bad people where they belong, and that's in jail. So laws need to get refocused back where they were. They did some adjustments for us when it came to the bail reform, but on the discovery side, the work that is done, especially when it comes to technology, every camera, every video, every body camera, all has to be turned over within that 14-day period, or we're dismissing charges, and that's what's happening. So when it comes to the technology side of things, extracting that information and turning it over to defense counsel, he has more rights now than our victims do. And unfortunately, we get the burden of trying to pick up that slack without funding it. They've made they've made mandates that are unfunded. And that's the problem that we're going through. The size of the discovery people and the analysts that are now hired to extract that information, nobody's picking up the tab. So when you look at the laws, and now, again, they're now looking to go after restricting the flights of unmanned drones. There are thousands of drones in the air every single day that civilians are buying and have the same usage that my drone has, ability to film and go into areas that you can't reach. But they're not under any restrictions. The first person they come in as law enforcement, let's make sure that they're doing it right, are the first responders in the FDNY. The focus has got to go back where it belongs. Get it off our back and put it back on where it belongs, on the bad people, not on the good people who are trying to protect you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I yield back.
The gentleman's time's expired. I now recognize